Pleasure to be here today with Rabbi Garth Silberstein, who just completed serving as rabbi in Sacramento and is now moving on to be the rabbi of Beit in St. Louis. So, Behatzlacha over there. And has done a lot of great stuff and relevant to our conversation today. In 2014, founded the Organic Yeshiva. So thanks for taking some time to talk.
Thanks for welcoming and inviting me to speak. It's a real pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. So to start with this idea, where did this idea of, first of all, what is the idea of Organic Yeshiva, and where did that emerge from you?
So just by way of background, for where this came from for me is I grew up in Northern California in a family where we spent a lot of time outside. We had gardens, we grew food that we would then eat, and being outside and working with our bodies and being connected to the soil and where our food came from was just sort of part of what I grew up with. I then moved to New York City as an adult in the East Coast and lost a little bit of that sense of the ease of access to that. And later, as an adult, when I was becoming more observant and I went to Israel to go learn for a year at the Pardes Institute of Jewish Studies in Jerusalem, and I fell in love with Beit Midrash culture, and I fell in love with Talmud study. But at the same time, and I was reveling in spending all day, every day in the Beit Midrash, learning and engaging with a kind of text and a kind of dialogue with the generations of tradition that I'd never had before. But there was something about sitting under bad fluorescent lights in a climate-controlled building
right.
from sun up to sundown every day that I felt as spiritually turned on one level as I was. There was some part of me that felt really deeply disconnected.
Yeah.
And one day during my first year there, we, as part of a day of volunteering and service, a group of us went to go harvest oranges with Leket Israel, as Israel's largest food rescue organization. Beautiful. And we spent, 2-3 hours out in an orchard picking oranges before getting back on the bus to go back to the Beit Midrash and keep learning. Yeah. And I remember getting back on the bus and thinking, if only I could spend every morning out doing something with my hands, something physically, tangibly productive outside, and then go back into the Beit Midrash and learn. I had so much more energy and excitement for learning at that moment than I'd had in weeks and months. And I thought, somewhere there has to be a program that integrates these things. And fast forward to when I was in rabbinical school at Yeshiva Chovevei Torah. I found myself one summer with, I hadn't made plans for an internship or a job, and I thought, what am I going to do this coming summer? And I thought, what about that idea I had to make? So I organized a few friends of mine, rabbinical students, Jewish educators, and we made an arrangement with a Jewish educational farm in Illinois to go stay and work there and spend our mornings working on the farm and our afternoons learning Torah, and we spent the summer there doing exactly that. And when we after that summer, the project, I put it on the back burner while I was finishing up my rabbinical studies, getting transitioned into life in Sacramento, and then once I was in Sacramento, this idea of combining text study with more physical, experiential education outdoors with land and soil was something that I was able to bring back to the front burner, as it were. And we organized not a summer intensive the way I had before, but a series of one-day programs, afternoon programs, evening programs, each of which combines something related to food and farming and gardening with some kind of text study.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's awesome. So, it feels like the brachot each morning, the blessings, are intended to be a part of life rather than just davened at once in its original form. Chazal seemed to have not been, they weren't like yeshiva bachrim. They were kind of out in the world, So I wonder, what's some of the Torah that animates your values here?
Well, more than any particular text, there's just the fact that if you look at the Mishnah, which is sort of the first real canonical rabbinic text of Jewish law that we have, one of the 6 sections is just about agriculture.
Right.
It's just about farming, and we were originally a sort of pastoralist and then later an agrarian people, and a huge amount of Jewish law and Torah is not only about farming and animal husbandry, but also rooted in a worldview that's shaped by that life, and which finds its expression even in the metaphors and the allegories that Chazal will bring, or the examples they'll bring. So that I think it's actually really hard to understand the Talmud and Jewish law if you actually don't understand anything about how food is grown or how an agrarian society works. One of my friends and teachers, Rabbi Yafa Epstein, once said to me, she doesn't think anyone should study the laws of Shabbos until they've grown wheat and harvested it and turned it into bread. And then you can understand something about the laws of cooking on Shabbos. But until you've done that, it's going to be a theoretical exercise.
It's one of the exciting things about Torah is that it pushes us into deeper dimensions of life. It's almost like pushing us to live in all aspects, because you can't understand Torah without understanding all these various dimensions of business and medicine and of nature. And I do feel like Ein Od Milvado, like HaKadosh, in my own theology, and I'm curious if your theology resonates here as well, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's godliness in everything. And encountering nature has that encounter with the divine in some sense as well.
And I think, in the Kabbalistic literature, there's this, we speak about 4 worlds, right? There's the world of physicality and the world of movement and breath and emotion, and the world of the intellect, and then the world of the spirit. And I think the way most religious Jews live our religious lives, 90% of our religious lives live in the world of the intellect alone, right? A little bit in the world, but I think that a really healthy, robust religious life has to exist in all 4 worlds. And we have to, and that is one of the sort of central organizing principles behind everything I did with Organic Yeshiva. Every activity that we planned, every program that we did, was how is this actually touching us on all those levels? On what are we doing physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? Not just because some Jews don't have the zitzfleisch, they don't have the stamina to sit in the Beit Midrash all day. Nebuch, too bad. Let's have some outdoorsy program to reach those poor souls. No, but I think actually we all need to connect with all those aspects of ourselves if we're going to have a full, integrated spiritual life.
So my last question for you, and you just moved in that direction, is what would it look like if this vision was actualized? What would the Jewish world look like, or what would our religious world look like if actually the Organic Yeshiva was a success? Like how would our models look fundamentally different?
I think one model would be, no one would, just like Rabbi Yafa said, no one would think about teaching Sidura Dapat, the laws of Shabbos that are based on the activities of growing bread and wheat and turning into bread, without actually having a direct experience of what that activity looks like. And so too, everything in our Jewish lives, we wouldn't let things be just a theoretical exercise, and that our Beit Midrashes would be places not just of intellectual engagement, but places where the life of the body, the life of the emotions, and the life of the soul all can coexist.
Love it. Wishing lots of continued success in this endeavor.